Welcome to Everything CPA and Private Equity, where we unpack the evolving relationship between accounting firms, private equity, and other strategics. I'm David Wolfskehl.
And I'm Phil Whitman, and we've chatted with more than 150 private equity groups. We've actually closed over 40 transactions with those private equity groups, and we're bringing you firsthand insights from the front lines.
And whether you're exploring your first deal, putting your toe in the water, refining your strategy, we're here to guide you with real stories, expert advice, actionable takeaways. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Everything CPA and PE. And we're here to educate you, to give you access to leaders, to let you, as a leader of the firm, have additional information so you can make a great decision for your firm. And today I'm so excited. We have Rohit Chande of Count Technologies. And we've also had Tony from Count. Different kind of firm, different kind of mindset, and so excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's very interesting because the name of our podcast is Everything CPA and PE, Everything CPA and Private Equity. If I'm not mistaken,
we are not a private equity.
We're not a private equity.
No, cancel. Stop the shop.
So obviously we use the title of our show when we say PE. We're talking about amalgamation of strategic investors that have found the business of accounting to be of great interest to them. And I'm very excited to have you here because Count has an amazing story. You've got a phenomenal background. And as you know, when we first started working together, I said we like different. And what you bring is very different.
Yeah.
What we'd love to do today is just have you do some sharing and, so why are you different? How are you different? And maybe before we even go there, we could talk a little bit about your background.
I think the background, why don't we start there? Because you aren't a CPA, I don't believe, right?
No.
You're not 30 years in
No.
business. And oftentimes it's outsiders, right, who make a difference. So why don't you share a little bit of your journey and why the CPA industry was something that you decided to focus on?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. So as you pointed out, I'm not a CPA. I have a very different career path that got me here. Started out as a chemical engineer and, that gave me the structured critical thinking, but I was bored by the process driven work, and that got me into management consulting, where we were fortunate to be part of a fantastic journey where we scaled the firm from $1 billion of revenues to $12.5 billion in 10 years. Learned a lot about post-merger integration. How do you build common cultures? How do you create incentives that fosters the growth of the business? And that's what brought me on to the private equity side, where now I've done multiple different roll-ups in different industries. But the pull to come back to the professional services was too strong for me to ignore. So when we sold the last business, it was in residential services space where we built a $2 billion business in 3.5 years. Wanted to come back to professional services, particularly financial services and accounting. Given the dynamics of this industry. Along the way, met with these two amazing technical co-founders for Count who had PhDs in AI, and this is pre-ChatGPT. And, we had already recognized the power that artificial intelligence brings to the table in order to modernize the profession. And that's really started the Count journey. Given my background and experience, I had a high degree of conviction that to transform a professional services industry, it takes a lot longer than 3 years, which is a traditional private equity hold period. And hence we consciously put together a long-term capital holding structure, which allows us to make investments in people, in technology, in growth, and really build something that is sustainable for the long term. And so that's the journey. And we've been fortunate to have you as our partner. So we really appreciate that.
And Rohit, why don't you talk about some of those core lessons you learn, right? Smart people learn from mistakes. I'm assuming you had a couple of mistakes building a $2 billion company. And now for this new endeavor, right? Why don't you talk about some of those core things that you're bringing from your past?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Number one is investment in people, right? When you are on this growth journey where it is rapid scaling of firms, if you are not conscious about taking care of the people side of the business, you invariably end up either slowing down or in fact, you can go in reverse. And and again, given the dynamics of the CPA industry where 75% of the CPAs are supposed to retire in the next 14, 15 years, less and less students are entering the profession, it is absolutely imperative for us to focus on the people side of the business.
This is from an AI technology,
yeah.
Right? And so I love that. And we believe, right, it's really people plus AI is the magic, not just AI. We'll see in the future, but at least for today.
Yeah.
It's sometimes I wonder, I have someone that I've been working with who I think I recently introduced you to, and his vision is, I'm a sole practitioner and it's going to be me and a Mac Mini and that's all I need. I don't think that's where our profession is going. I think people first.
Yeah.
And maybe AI will help our profession with the need to elevate the game that the people are playing. But I think their knowledge of that AI is going to be critical to ensuring success.
Absolutely. I mean, we are convinced that AI is not going to replace human judgment, the trust, the relationships. And that's why we believe that we need to be operating at the intersection of human intelligence and artificial intelligence, right? But that also poses another unique aspect or unique challenge for us to think about, which is the traditional apprenticeship model that the industry has followed relied on that heavy repetitive work, which is what is getting automated away with AI. So what do you do to bring the next generation of leaders along this journey, right? How do you invest in them? How do you upskill and prepare them for the jobs of the future? Because the jobs of the future are going to look very different. And that's where we continue to focus on the human aspect of the business.
Something just dawned on me. David and I, back in 2016, we worked with the Connecticut Society of CPAs, and this was before people were even talking about AI. And we were preaching that, firms needed to add advisory service offerings. And a year, 2, 3 years later, everyone was talking about, we need to be doing more than just this compliance work. We need to add advisory services. And I think for a lot of firms, that was a heavy lift. And there aren't a whole bunch of firms that have really successfully transitioned where, hey, we were 90% compliance work, doing audits, doing comps, reviews, tax returns, and to transition into this real advisory type role. And so now AI is coming in and it's going to take over a very large percentage of the work that was kind of easy to do. CPA was being a historian, reporting history, preparing tax returns, putting numbers in boxes. And now AI is going to do that. And I think the need to further get into other advisory services where that human touch is critical. If you were a client of mine and I'm your CPA, you would probably want me to help your business be more profitable, not just prepare your tax return, help you with strategies, maybe, introduce, an M&A opportunity. Yeah. So why don't you talk about, we know AI is going to, in the future, partners aren't going to need to put numbers in boxes anymore. And we do go into firms and see partners putting numbers in boxes. So your vision, AI is doing that, when you're building your platform. And by the way, I know you've partnered with a firm already. So Count Technologies is not aspirational. They have actually partnered with a specialty firm. And I wonder if you would talk about, from a very high level, you're coming into this industry where there's all this compliance work. Mm-hmm. We know AI is going to do that. What's your vision for building the other?
Yeah, that's something that we constantly talk about as part of our leadership meetings. I think the beauty of this profession is the accountants enjoy the most trusted advisory relationship with the clients. And, even when I look at my business and when I'm talking with my accountant, I'm not looking for numbers or reports. I'm looking for judgment. I'm looking for the signals that he is seeing and surfacing those for decision-making purposes. And I think that's really where the value is, right? AI will help us tremendously because traditionally firms have been very focused on technical skills, and they kind of miss out on the signals that they're hearing from the clients, whereas AI can help us get the intelligence on client sentiments, right? What are the problems that they are facing, and bring that to the table, where now our role changes and becomes that much more advisory in nature. And hence Count Technologies, we are focused on building out the suite of services that the clients are looking for, right? Our goal is, if a client brings a vexing problem to us, we should be able to solve it for them. And so this is the whole premise behind it. And again, the power of AI to understand structured and unstructured data, whether it is through emails, text messages, phone calls, that's the beauty of bringing all of this thing together.
And so why don't you, Rohit, love it. And so why don't you talk about some of those services that you think will fit really well with those client needs? Have you thought about any of those specific services?
Yeah, so our strategy is focused on 5 pillars. As Phil mentioned, we started out in tax specialty. We are actually closing an acquisition on Monday. So fingers crossed. And then, the second pillar for us is full service accounting. So that's where really the data and the relationships reside. Office of CFO is another area that we have identified, and we are constantly thinking about that, actively looking for firms to partner with their wealth management, because at the end of the day, it's our job to preserve the financial well-being of the families and family offices that we serve. And last but not the least is the advisory services around digital and cyber, etc. Because in an ever-changing, ever-evolving world, we need to be able to provide that type of guidance to our clients. And so that's how we think about our strategy. You didn't ask this, but I think it's important to mention. We believe we believe in a global scope, because our clients are oftentimes multinational firms with presence everywhere, different parts of the globe, and we should be able to solve the problems that they are facing in those local geographies also. So that's another thing that I wanted to point out.
And again, we like different, and the reason we like different is we have different clients, we have different needs. And certainly I think, you're one of the first people who talked about international first, right? Or international as a pillar. And again, the world is getting flatter and flatter, as Phil and I are similar age. If you would have told me I'm going to start my day on a video call with somebody in the Philippines every morning, I would have said you're nuts. So, it's amazing how the world is getting flatter and flatter. So Rohit, as we wrap up here, right? You asked the one question I was just about to ask you. But is there any other points that you'd like to share with the audience, or anything you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that we believe in is optionality, right? Our model is unique. It's different. It's much more forward focused, much more focused on people and change management and all of that. But fortunately, the industry is offering multiple different options. Some of them will be better for certain firms than the others. But, we believe that what we are building here is long-term sustainable business, where we are investing in the next generation of leadership and the generation after that. And that's really what gets us out of the bed every day.
Well, so I'm going to throw in one last thing. Because Rohit started this conversation saying he started a firm that was doing $1 billion, scaled it to $12.5 billion, and then did a totally separate company and built it to $2 billion. And you've had other, I say brick, billions. In Grant Cardone language, he calls them bricks, when you're doing billions. But in any event, is your goal to take this CPA firm roll up? Will this be your next $1 billion roll up?
We certainly hope so. And, we have the capital, we have the thought process, we have the expertise, we have done this before, so we have the scars to show for it when we didn't do it right. So yeah, for certain.
And you also have Whitman Advisory to help you get there.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, on behalf of Phil and myself and Rohit, you did great, and appreciate your insights. And that's really what's this about. People look at the world differently, and we want our leadership teams, our followers, to find what's the right thing for them. So super appreciative of your time. Phil, thank you. And everybody, go crush your day.
Thank you for tuning into Everything CPA and Private Equity. Every episode brings fresh insight.
However, there's always more to talk about.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you watch podcasts. Have a question or topic you'd like us to cover? We'd love for you to reach out to us.
Together, we will help you navigate this dynamic landscape so that we can help you achieve your goals. Until next time, keep making moves that matter.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.